ever get that feeling? Like you're not totally in the driver's seat when you make a choice.
Oh, absolutely.
It's like something's kind of nudging you. Well, get ready to unpack that feeling because today we're diving into the world of behavioral economics undressed by Dr. Fadi Amrouche.
Yeah.
We're going to uncover how our decisions, even the ones that seem totally in our control, are influenced by hidden forces we might not even realize are there.
It's pretty wild stuff.
Yeah.
We like to think we're logical, rational beings, right?
Right. Making those smart choices.
But Dr. Amrouche, he pulls back the curtain a bit in this book. He shows us how our brains are wired to take these shortcuts and how those shortcuts, those biases, can really throw a wrench in our best laid plans.
It's like he's giving us X-ray vision into our own minds. I love how direct the Arabic title of the book is too, by the way. It literally translates to behavioral economics undressed.
I love that, yeah.
No sugarcoating there. So let's talk biases, because that's where things get really interesting. Have you ever found yourself, I don't know, maybe scrolling through your phone instead of tackling a big work project?
Oh, all the time.
Oh, that, my friend, is a classic example of what Dr. Amrouche calls present bias. It's like our brains are hardwired to prioritize that instant gratification, even if it means, maybe facing the consequences later.
Totally. It's like our brains are saying, ooh, shiny thing, gotta have it now, even when we know deep down it's not the best move.
Exactly. And then there's anchoring, which I find completely mind-blowing. This is where we get swayed by a random piece of information, like the first price we see on something, even if it's a totally made-up number.
Right. It's crazy how our brains latch onto that initial piece of information, and we use it as a reference point, even if it makes absolutely no sense.
It's like our brains are craving a reference point, any reference point. He gives this example in the book. Researchers asked people to write down the last 2 digits of their social security number, totally random.
Yeah, random, yeah.
And then they asked them to bid on things, like a bottle of wine. Guess what? The folks with higher social security numbers, those last 2 digits, they bid significantly higher for the same bottle of wine.
Wow.
It's nuts.
Just goes to show you, our brains are always looking for patterns, even when they're totally meaningless.
And then there's the bias we probably all know and love, or maybe love to hate. Overconfidence.
Oh, yeah, overconfidence. That one can get us into trouble.
Big time, especially when it comes to things like investing, right? We get this inflated sense of our abilities, think we can bet the market, and bam, suddenly we're in over our heads.
Absolutely. And it's not just investing either. Think about career decisions, relationships. Overconfidence can definitely lead us down some interesting paths.
Definitely. One thing that really struck me in the book was Dr. Amrouche's advice for job interviews.
Oh, yeah.
He says, instead of just rattling off achievements, highlight what you learned from your mistakes. It shows self-awareness, that you're willing to grow. Employers eat that up.
It's so true, though, right?
Yeah.
Being able to own your mistakes and demonstrate that you've learned from them is such a valuable skill.
Totally. So we've got these biases kind of secretly pulling the strings. How do we fight back, become more conscious decision makers?
Well, the first step is awareness, right? Just knowing these biases exist, being able to spot them in ourselves, that's huge.
Okay.
Next time you're about to make a decision, especially a big one, hit pause for a second. Ask yourself, is anchoring playing a role here? Am I being overly optimistic? What would happen if I challenge this assumption?
I love that pause, because we often rush into things.
We do.
And this really forces you to be more intentional. So it's like we're taking back control. Yeah.
Exactly. And the more you understand these biases, and Dr. Amrouche really breaks them down beautifully in the book, the more equipped you are to navigate them, whether it's negotiating a raise, making a sound investment, even choosing the right partner.
It all comes back to making those intentional choices, right? Making sure they're aligned with what we truly value.
Totally.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into behavioral economics undressed, I think the big takeaway here is our brains are powerful, yes, but they're also wonderfully imperfect. By understanding our biases, we can actually make decisions that are more authentically us. Now, here's a thought to chew on as you go about your day. Where do you see these biases popping up in your own life? And how can this new awareness help you make different choices starting right now?
Great question.